Okay. I have recently talked about the Hyleg, the Alcochoden, and the Anareta, both on my nature astrology course and in a couple of videos I posted on YouTube. And I said it didn't work because it made no sense and because in practice I've never seen it work. And I would like to expand a bit on the first part, why it makes no sense. It is very elegant and it's very easy, but it carries a misunderstanding of what the natal chart is. The natal chart is a snapshot of what is relevant in the sky at the moment and at the place, for the moment and for the place where you were born. So it has a symbolic association with the person who is born. And regarding that association, I'm not talking about events in the chart and looking at events in the life, but regarding that association, it is fixed. Whatever is shown in the natal chart in itself must be constant, fixed in the chart. Not as a quality necessarily, but as a potential or as a possibility, or depending on the case, or as an impossibility, or as a lack of potential. Why? Because if it showed a very definite event in the life of the person, it would only work for that time. It doesn't mean it cannot show potential of events. Some events are more likely to happen to some people, and some events are less likely to happen to some people. This is something we can all understand, and this is something shown by most investigations in natal astrology. We can pick select a chart for someone who's famous and look at it and see some major events in their life or things for which the native is famous, and we can see a symbolic correspondence between these things and the chart. But the chart is not actually showing the event, it's showing potential. But that's part of life. Some events are more probable, are more likely to happen to some people because their possibilities in life go in that general direction. For example, we might see someone who is famous for having problems with their friends, and we can see the seeds of that in the natal chart. Or someone who's famous for marrying people younger than them, or from another country, or I don't know, richer or poorer. And we, at least in theory, we could see the potentials we see in the natal chart are always congruent with that event, with those events, I'm sorry. But that does not mean the event itself is shown in the chart. If your chart showed, for example, a marriage with someone in particular, so I don't know, if anyone famous, Rod Stewart, If the natal chart showed his marriage to one of his more than one wives, he could not show the marriage to the others. By definition, we only have one seventh house, one ruler, and one configuration of that matter. So it's not reasonable that the chart can show that marriage, the chart itself, not the techniques that advance it, that marriage, because if it did, it would show that marriage alone and not others. That event alone and not others. It cannot show different events. It could show potential, and it could show the underlying pattern between several events of that sort. So, what is death? Death is one of the few potentials that the chart doesn't have to show us. Because if you're a religious person, you would have to allow for very few exceptions. For a Christian, we have two prophets and Our Lady. But for the rest of us, death is certain. So the chart doesn't have to tell you you're going to die, because the chart doesn't have to tell you you have a heart, you have two lungs. It makes no sense that the symbols in the sky, which give you possibilities in life, would give you information about something that you don't need the chart to know. So it cannot show you you're going to die, but can it show how you're going to die? Well, it might, because as I said, it talks about potential. But how are you going to die? Very rarely is something related to death itself. For example, someone dies in battle. The first thing we think is, surely this person has a tendency to die in battle, and it can be shown in the chart. Really? It's way more reasonable to think, well, dying in battle happens a lot to people who are warriors, or to people who are physically violent. So the chart can tell you the person is physically violent, or is fit to be a warrior. It doesn't mean this person in itself has a greater chance of dying in battle, because there's the kind of death they're going to have. They have a greater chance to die in battle, because a battle is a thing in which lots of people usually die, and this person has a tendency to be in this kind of situation. So, as a potential, we would see things related to that in other areas of the chart, not in the eighth house. I don't think the chart shows that kind of stuff. It makes no sense. Oh, this person died at 50 or 15 or 5, whatever, years of age, from a disease. We can see in very general terms, in a very broad brush way, diseases in the chart. And some diseases are harder to cure than others. But when and how this person is going to die depends on other factors than this. Person may have a high propensity of having cancer and might die in battle before the cancer works itself in their bodies. Person might have a propensity of dying, of having a very aggressive disease, but the same disease in Renaissance England and in current day America or in prehistoric Africa will be treated and cured differently. So the person will live more or less according to how they are treated, and how they are treated depends on circumstances that are not in the chart. So it's not impossible in some cases when the possibilities are in the person for the chart to show a higher probability of dying in a certain way, but I don't think it has to show for everyone, because not everyone dies like that. Many people die of things that are not related to their own possibilities. They are related to circumstances. Like, I don't think everybody in Hiroshima had in the chart the possibility, the potential of dying from a nuclear bomb at the same time. And if you understood that, if about how, the how long is easy to understand. The how long the person will live or when the person will die depends on how. Because if you die by an accident, you die when the accident happens. If you die in battle, you can only die during the battle. If you die from wounds from the battle, you can only die after the battle. So you might be sick, and the sickness could take 30 years to make you die, and you can die before that. And the sickness might be curable or treatable, and you die after that. So I don't think the chart in itself can show when the person will die. But Marcus, what about the advancement, the advancing techniques? You say it's possible, but not strictly, totally certain, to see testimonies of death in these advancing techniques. Isn't it contradictory? It sounds like that, but it's not. Because these advancing techniques are how all these possibilities and potentials in the chart are developed and brought to the fore and to the background in different times of our lives. So it is not showing exactly unchanging fate, but, for the lack of a better word, the flavor of the time, the taste of the time. So some times are more dangerous to us, and in these more dangerous times, the probability of death increases. And sometimes we will probably be sicker. The probability of death increases in these times. But it's not a written fate. You're going to die in 2000 32 2 o'clock in the evening on the 15th of April, for example. It's different. We are seeing how your essential nature, and by essential nature, I'm not talking just about the body of the person, but all the things that make this person, are developing over time. But these things must be read in the context of the circumstances of that time. So the interplay of these two things helps us say something about what might happen during that time. It is like so for everything, not just for death. Children, we can see potential, but if this potential cannot be fulfilled at 5 years of age or at 95 years of age. We could see things that must be interpreted in one way for a child, for a young adult, for a teenager, for an old adult, for a very old person, differently, but the exact same testimonies. Right? So that's why I don't give any credit to this calculation of death. I don't give it first on principle. The fact that I have never seen it work consistently is secondary. It's just a confirmation. Right? If you have any doubts, please write in the comments and let me know. See you.